and those other fancy, nicer consoles had back in those days. So the Yamaha was kind of, it was by just, to make an exaggeration, it was kind of a toy compared to a Midas console.
Oh, and yeah, they weren't in the Midas league.
I remember noticing that for the first time, really seriously, when I had been mixing Julio Iglesias on a PM4000, and then somebody said, well, you got to use this AMEC recall. And I'm like, whoa, it's a whole different world all of a sudden with the real console. That AMEC sound and the AMEC headroom was just, recording in progress. Okay, got it. Anyway, with that different console just really sounded beefier, for lack of a better word. It just sounded more better overall.
And the Yamahas
wasn't like the Yamahas were bad or anything. It was the standard of the industry. There were probably thousands of PM4000s sold, but they were just not as good sounding as some of the other consoles that were around at the time.
It's the Camry of pro audio.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I used to think the PM2 was a warmer sounding. Didn't have the attack of the PM4s, but it was a warmer, bigger sounding. But it certainly wasn't in the Midas or the AMEC Langley. I've used it a couple of times. In the 56 channel mode, and I use 24 channels.
Well, if you're talking about those days, you also got to be talking about the Ramza, because that became the standard monitor desk for whatever reason.
The WRS or whatever it was called. I've used those a couple of times.
Because it was cheap. I mean, I
don't think they were cheap.
They
weren't cheap.
They weren't great either, but at the same time, the next thing to come out after that was Mackie. So.
Well, there's no time like the present to welcome everybody who's listening to us on Facebook and YouTube. If there is anybody listening to us on Facebook and YouTube, I like to have that. But just remember everything you hear. Welcome to the Mastermind RoundTable. We're back calling it the Mastermind because everybody here offers a little bit of their mastermind to this roundtable. And although we're square, it's a square table, but I think roundtable is more descriptive of what we are, because we're bringing ideas and we're talking about what's happening. But just remember, everybody out there, that you're welcome to join us on the panel, and that everything you hear today is going to be opinion. So make sure that you do your own research before you believe that it's the gospel. And there you have it. So welcome, everybody. We were just talking about some consoles because our friend Wayne from, I believe it's Wagga Wagga, he was just talking about one of his neighboring cities. What was the name of that sister city?
Tumbarumba.
Tumbarumba, where you go. I wonder, when you go to Tumbarumba, it seems like that's a place where you go to get your belly rubbed. I don't know.
No, it's up in the hills, and it's got about 2,000 people population. It's only a small town. That's a beautiful.
Do they have any bears or koalas or anything like that?
They probably have. They might have koalas, maybe. They might have drop bears, but they don't have bears.
Yeah. Well, we've got we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But Wayne, you were mentioning about going up in the Blue Origin, I believe, and one of your Australian buddies went up there. Is that correct?
That's correct. And he grew up in Tumbarumba until he was 18. That's
why we brought up Tumbarumba. But the reality is William Shatner went up, and it turns out that I was correct last week when I said that he didn't pay for his trip. Jeff Bezos paid for his trip. And the interesting thing is, anybody saw any of his press afterwards, I mean, he became a staunch ecologist right now, because he's saying that we've got to save the planet. So I thought that was pretty cool. What did anybody think in the room about what they saw about William Shatner going up to space? Any opinions?
Amazing at 90 years old.
Yeah. Well, that depends. Oh, no, that's what he was wearing. That's right. Okay. It's up in space.
I usually think of him as kind of a not such a nice person, but I think he was very humbled by the trip into space, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
He's not a nice person.
Absolutely. By the way, one thing I'll also comment is that if you're watching this, a lot of people in the room right now are in their cars driving, which of course is not the best audio sound, but the content that they're bringing to us is worth listening to. So, you have to strain a little bit to hear the better sound, but it's okay with me because the people that are talking, it just shows we're all going back to work. David Dansky was in the room just a few minutes ago, but he had a work call, so they came in and said, "Hey, time to work," and everybody's in the car. Michael Gedd, you don't have to raise your hand while you're driving. Please just speak out.
Who is not a nice person?
Most people that you meet in life. That's about it.
Now, who are you referring to? Bill Shatner?
Shatner. Shatner. Yeah, I've heard that he's not the nicest guy. But
Dude,
I think that
I've worked with him 4 times. Awesome human being. Absolutely.
Oh, no, okay. See, so
yeah,
his public
he's
persona is different than. Oh, that's cool. Good to hear.
Yeah,
And
he
worked with him
didn't
once.
take any crap. He didn't take any crap from anybody. But as long as you're polite and respectful, he's great. No problem.
Yeah, I worked with him once. Super gentleman, right on time, did everything that he had to do. It was a public service announcement when I worked for the city of Los Angeles. I was responsible for doing PSAs for the city, and we booked him. He got there on time, did the lines, went through it once. He was flawless. Good actor. I mean, amazing. How he was able to capture the lines and be able to repeat it, immediately. Just seems like, I know we did send him a script, but the reality is he was prepared when he came to work, and it was really cool to work with him, So, yeah, good things. The thing is this, you never know when you're going to meet somebody and they're having a bad day. And that's the problem with being a celebrity, is that you're always on. So when you're in public, people don't know that you just, stubbed your toe, or you just found out your accountant stole all your money. All they see is that they're expecting the character that you play to be that's the person. So I guess Christopher Walken probably never has that problem, But speaking of union actors, hey, the IATSE and the AMPTP have reached a deal to avert the strike, so there will be no strike, and they're basically going to be able to work less hours and make more money. So that's a good thing.
I heard information about that the deal they were offered was not so great, really, and it will be interesting to see if they really approve it. In particular, I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but what I heard is that the subject of how many hours to work per day, the maximum number of hours that the client will expect you to work each day, was not addressed at all. And that is one of the major concerns, that these clients are just beating them up, asking them to work 20-hour days, 18-hour days, and that sort of stuff. Repeated days after, 18-hour days, 3 in a row. That's pretty hard to do, and that's one of the things I believe they're trying to get away from. And I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but I heard that the offer that they were given does not include any mention of maximum hours per day. So there might be more to the story, is I guess what I'm saying.
Actually, there is an expression called Fraturday, which basically is it's a call on Friday that they can work till Saturday, and now they've changed that, so the weekend turnaround now, I believe, is 53 hours. I wish Tim was in the room to cover that, but I do believe that they did cover some time element on that, and there's all sorts of breaks and turnaround time before you go into double time and triple time. So I believe that they're still allowing them to work many hours, but if they are working that many hours, they're going to be compensated accordingly. And then, once they get into double golden time, that becomes really expensive for the producers. So it probably will be a good alternative rather than just putting it in a contract that they can't work that many hours. I mean, I think everybody who's working once.
Well, here's what I heard. This is right from somebody who really knows, because they're in touch with people that handle the payroll for the people that work on film sets. This was the exact days. And then like a week before it, they said, no, we're going to do it in 2 days, 2 20-hour days instead of 4 10-hour days. And we don't care about the overtime because the cost is going to still be less than what it would be for 4 days. And I was like, how is that possible? Well, it's not the labor cost they're concerned about so much, but the cost of everything else for 4 days overrode the fact that they're going to beat the shit out of these crews for 2 20-hour days. And that to me is ridiculous to have 2 20-hour days in a row. That's just crazy. What kind of performance are they going to get out of the people on the second day? I can see 1 day, but 2 days in a row? Wow. Anyway, that's typically done, is what I was told, in order to save money because they're saving money on other aspects of the shoot because they cut it down to 2 days instead of 4 days. Pretty interesting, right?
It is. And you talk to the people of China about that, they can't understand what you're saying. That's about it, because they're used to working 100 hours a day and they're glad to do it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying anything other than I don't know. And if anybody have an opinion on this in the room? Anybody know any more than that?
My sister's a costumer in LA, and she called me yesterday and said that, like Ken was talking about, the turnaround time was a huge deal. And her understanding was that they agreed on a 10-hour turnaround. So you can't be made to go back to the gig the next day unless you have 10 hours between when you left and when you're supposed to start again.
I wonder if they can't, or there's a huge price to pay if they insist that you do that. Because in corporates, it's just they have to pay a premium in order to do that. In other words, so I wonder which one it is. But either way, the subject of how many hours they can work in a day apparently has not come up. But yeah, the turnaround is part of that equation, obviously, right?
So normally what I do is, of course, for the 10-hour turnaround, what I do is that the crew would come back if it's less than 10 hours. They come back on the same clock. Their next hour starts in overtime, and it goes from there. So the moment that they come back to the site, that first hour is overtime. A couple hours later, they're in double time, and it goes from there. But if I had a crew that had to work 20 hours, I would double my crew and have 2 10-hour shifts. And in fact, would overlap them and have some of them stay 11 hours to hand it over to another crew. I mean, that just makes sense to me.
Yeah, and of course, seeing you're feeding the crew, that's a lot of food you have to put up there. So there you go. I would say. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting, and we'll have more about it. I'll try to get Michael in the room from IATSE to come in and talk about it next week. And we'll see if he's got an opinion, or maybe we could get him on the phone and he could pop in right now. Maybe Tina could get him on the phone and see if he'll pop in. In the meantime, let's move on to the next subject. That 16 million people, 65 and older, will be in the workforce by 2030. And the number of older workers in the workforce is expected to swell over the next decade. By 2030, there will be 16.1 million workers 65 and older, compared to 10.6 million in 2020, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it's kind of interesting that people are working longer and longer and not retiring as much as they used to. And I look around the room and I could see we're all getting up there, except for you, Ray. But all the rest of us seem to be, getting older in the years, and yet we're still working. So it's pretty lucky for us that we love what we do, right, Michael? Yep.
I'm pretty sure I'm the other than Ray, I'm probably the youngest.
That's cool. I'm glad you've got a good sense of humor there. That's it. It's basically good. But you're fortunate that you might even live longer, because scientists have just attached a pig kidney to a human being, giving hope for new transplants. And what they're saying is that not only will it be able to, it's a generically grown kidney on a pig, and they say that the pigs are very close to human beings in their chemistry makeup, and now they're saying that they'll be able to grow hearts, livers, all sorts of different organs. And now, because so many people, of all the people that are waiting for a kidney right now, basically 10 out of every 100 people die before they get a chance to get the kidney. So this is going to be a great opportunity if they could really harvest these kidneys from genetically grown pigs, so that we could all live longer. It's kind of interesting. I believe right now that the heart valves that they've made comes from pigs as well. Does anybody know anything about that? Nobody. Oh well. Nobody knows.
Is that why some girls call guys pigs? What?
It could be.
No.
It could be. So anyway, I know one thing.
I will tell you the one thing though, if we would bother to pay attention to feeding about proper nutrition and diet, we probably have a lot less kidney problems.
Yeah, they've done studies where they've shown where people where islands in the Pacific where everybody was really healthy, and then they introduced processed foods, and all of a sudden you see the obesity that just starts to take place, just natural, when they start bringing in refined sugars and refined flours and all of that other aspect of packaged foods. Unfortunately, Wayne doesn't have the cornflakes box up right now, so that we could highlight the guy that invented the speaker system as well. But what can I say? Right, Wayne? But you ate it all.
I did eat it all. But I've got baked beans. I've got baked beans, which is supposedly good for you.
There you go.
And I eat baked beans all the time.
So
they're a bit.
That's a good thing. Baked beans. We're going to keep you in a very airy place. Just whenever I'm around you, we'll make sure that we're never enclosed in a small environment. That's all.
Well, they get a bit noisy. They get a bit noisy after a while.
Yes.
Especially
by the way,
TMI, sir. TMI.
Has anybody experienced any shortage in the shelves? Because I'm not in America right now. I'm in Thailand, so I haven't seen it. But I just read an article that shortage leaves that the shelves are barren. You can't find chicken, coffee, diapers, or other things you need. Has anybody experienced any shortages in the market?
Not here in Texas.
Nope. Okay.
Now, there was a news article saying there's going to be a turkey shortage.
Yes, I went into the grocery store and there was an ice cream shortage.
There you go. And basically, this backlog in Long Beach is still affecting everybody of all the container ships that are stocked up in the pile out there, and all of the major docks here in the United States, which is a challenge.
I heard that the turkey shortage was a little more specifically the small turkeys, because the tendency to have small gatherings of people is greater this year with COVID still happening. I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably, can you believe anything you hear on the news anymore? Probably not.
Well, what I heard is that the plucking still happens manually, and there's a shortage of people willing to work as a turkey plucker.
Let's be careful how we enunciate.
Wow.
About that.
Yeah, because the stuff that just went through my mind. Yeah. Woo.
The story I saw this morning from a turkey farmer was that last January, when he was doing the plan for the year and how many they were going to raise this year, that they weren't expecting, because prior to the COVID and all this stuff was still rampant, and they didn't put as many as they thought they should do normally in the year, because they weren't sure what the year was going to come to.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if Elon Musk has that problem, because now he's the richest man in the world. His net worth is now more than Warren Buffett and Bill Gates combined, thanks to Tesla, SpaceX valuations. Pretty cool, hey? I mean, there's a guy, to think that he's worth more than Warren Buffett and Bill Gates combined. Wow, That's a lot of dough. That's a lot of dough. Anybody have his number? I'd like to borrow some money. That's it. I'd like to call him up and say, hey, can I got an investment for you.
saw an
Anybody
article-
know who Jordan Peterson is? Dr. Jordan Peterson?
No.
He's a psychologist, wrote this book called 12 Rules for Life. Great guy. I mean, I've been listening to this. Anyhow, he had a patient for a while who was upset because he wasn't doing as good as his roommate in college. Okay. Now the guy was a millionaire already, but he's upset that he's not doing as well as his roommate in college. Turns out his roommate in college was Elon Musk. How the hell are you going to be
that's
upset about that?
hilarious.
How?
That's hilarious.
How?
That is
Great.
hilarious. I'm glad that he wasn't my roommate in college, actually, But what can I say? I didn't have a roommate in college. That's because I always lived off campus. So it's crazy. Let's see, what else is new in the world? Anybody here take naps? Anybody take naps? Because now the question is I've always asked myself this, what is the perfect amount of time for a nap? And, because some people take naps for a couple hours, some people take short naps, cat naps, but the scientists now have said, and I'll read this, while naps can't replace a great night's sleep, they may help you feel refreshed, energized, and alert. Naps are also highly individualized, and many factors can influence their benefits, including age, even culture. Think of Spanish siestas, but if naps are too long, they may cause sleep inertia. And sleep inertia basically means you can't really get to sleep. That dreaded feeling of grogginess after waking up in the middle of a deep sleep. So in order to limit sleep inertia while still providing some rejuvenation, we recommend a 10 to 20 minute nap, but not longer. Studies show that 30-minute naps, but not 10 or 20-minute naps, may cause sleep inertia. So keep your naps down to 10 or 20 minutes, and you will feel healthy, safe, wealthy, and wise. And it will stay wide awake.
That explains why I like napping in high school. Put my head down during class, lifted up 20 minutes later, I felt totally refreshed.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting tidbit to share with everybody. And here's something interesting. Earth received their first radio signals from a planet outside of our solar system. The signals were picked up using the world's most powerful radio antenna, a low frequency array. Does anybody know anything about that? Does anybody have any relatives that are living outside our solar system that are trying to call home?
I've seen it reported for about a year now.
Yeah, we may not be alone. Although sometimes it feels like we're alone,
I don't know. I don't know how we could be alone.
Yep.
I think it's only our hubris that thinks that we're the only intelligent race.
Yeah. I wonder how they handle baggage in interspace travel. Because I'm hearing right now that the airlines are getting better at handling checked bags, but they still lost or mishandled 700,000 pieces of luggage in the first 6 months of 2021 alone. Luggage storage company Luggage Hero dug into its data from 17 airlines based in the US to determine which are the best airlines. And I believe American Airlines comes up pretty high at the top of making sure your luggage gets to you when you need it. Has anybody been doing a lot of flying? Because has anybody ever had an experience with lost luggage or delayed luggage? Ken?
Been a while.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
it's easily been 10 years for me.
When I traveled to New York a couple months ago, my luggage did not make it till 2 days later, 2 days after I arrived there.
So what did they do for you?
You do nonstop? Was it a nonstop flight?
No, it was a connection. Yeah, it's pretty hard to screw it up on a direct flight, isn't it? I'm not sure, but I was definitely on a connection, and I forget what airlines it was, but maybe United. And what did they do? Not much. They just delivered my luggage when it was available. But I have since purchased AirTags. You know about AirTags, right, Jan?
Yeah, the AirTags from Apple.
Right. I'm going to put an AirTag in each one of my suitcases. So when I travel, I'll be able to know exactly where it is.
There are different devices that do the tracking, but it seems once again Apple has found a market niche of an existing product and made it that much better so that everybody wants them.
Oh yeah, it's definitely innovative compared to previous products, and it is better, in so many ways that I'm definitely gonna be using that for a while.
Well, it seems the reason why it's better is somehow that they without knowing your identity, every iPhone is able to track AirTags for other iPhone users, which is pretty cool. I mean, the way they figured out that technology, and so I haven't bought any yet, but because they're hard to find, they're all sold out, it seems. And now they're having a shortage. I went into the store I cracked the back of my phone. So I wanted to put it in for repair, but there's a 10 to 14 day wait to bring your Apple phone into for repair here in Thailand. And so I said, well, I'll just buy one of the minis. And I went into the store and they are sold out. No more minis. The only thing they have are iPhone 11s. But they have no iPhone 13s at all of any denomination. They're all sold out and they can't get any more here.
Wow. Well, speaking of Apple, did you happen to watch the introduction of new products a couple days ago?
No, I missed that.
Oh man, that's right. I missed it too. I knew it was coming and I missed it.
Yeah, it was of course you can go watch it anytime on their app, but they introduced some new MacBook Pros that look very impressive.
Yeah, I'm on a MacBook Pro.
To go with them, but yeah, very impressive. I can't wait to see how well they operate.
Yeah, I'm on a MacBook Pro of 16-inch, and I travel with it, and and I plug in a second screen, and it really is it's an excellent machine. It just lasts forever. I have a 2014 MacBook Pro that I have that's in my office that's on all the time, that I leave in the office, and I log into it when I need to log into something from the United States. Which is ever. By the way, are you guys using VPNs? And if you are, I'd love to know which VPN you're using. I'm using Nord. What are you guys using? Are you using VPNs?
Oh, I used to have Nord, and then it came up for renewal, and I looked around and I found that lots of very reasonably priced VPNs, and one of them was called Surfshark. So I got Surfshark, and it works for me. And it's very reasonably priced.
Anybody else? Anybody else using a VPN? Nope. All right. Well, so let's talk about. I guess let's talk about the elephant in the room right now, and that would be what's going on with the COVID news. The FDA has approved a mix and match booster shot for COVID. Has anybody given it any thought about whether you're going to get a different type of what you already have? I'm going to be lucky if I can get anything here as a booster. Where I am, it's a little more difficult to get a booster shot, but I just had my shots. I had the Moderna, which they're saying Moderna now is by far the best one to have. Has anybody else heard that? So Anyway, there's not too much COVID here where I am on the island, but I have a feeling that's about to change because then they're now opening up the sandbox. As of November 1st, they're going to start letting people in that test negative rather than people with vaccines. So that could be a challenge, but we'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. And by the way, there's a lawmaker.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
I was going to say that part of the issue with shipping right now too is trucking companies can't find enough personnel to drive trucks because they're demanding that all their drivers be vaccinated. And about half their drivers went, no, I'm not doing it, and walked.
Part of the
So
problem-
not only are there a ton of broken down trucks sitting on the side of the road because they can't get parts, but now they can't get drivers either,
Well,
or
part
not
of the
enough.
problem in California, they've outlawed any truck. They parked all the trucks, won't register them that don't have DEP on them. The older trucks, they've also upped the DOT rules to where now you got to have, if you have blood pressure higher than 125 over 85, you can't drive. So there's like a lot of things going on that that has taken a lot of the older drivers out of it.
Yep.
California is way off the hook here on I mean it's almost like a socialistic state where they, or a communist state where they make all these edicts that, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get what the, you know, I lived in California for 30 years, and the only thing that I thought was good about living in California was the weather. But you know, everything was expensive. The air was dirty. You know, I mean, people who live in California, what's the fascination? You know, Ken, you live. I mean, the taxes. When I moved to Nevada from California, I got an increase in my salary of like $400 a month, just so I didn't pay state tax anymore.
That's why people moved in Tennessee, because there's no state income tax. And they can do better on the numbers.
You know, but people who live
No,
in
California is not the same. I mean, when I grew up there, you know, I grew up in San Diego, and it's just so many people moved into California from, you know, everywhere. And 6 months later, they're wearing OP shorts and calling themselves Californians. And it ruined it. It ruined it. That's the only thing I can think of at this point.
The homeless is off the hook there.
Main thing, like you said, Jan, is the weather. The weather is pretty great, and the what would you call it? The lifestyle, I guess you call it, is pretty nice. There's lots of what everybody wants in California, whatever that is. There's lots of variety right in the state of California. Also, like you can go from the beach to the mountains in a couple-hour drive, or even shorter drive. So people like that variety. People like the weather. They don't like the taxes. They don't like the pollution. They don't like the laws. They don't like lots of stuff, but they'll live there for the weather, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look at the traffic in Los Angeles is off the hook. It's crazy, you know, just as an example. But you know what they're saying right now, the new, and this just hit me wrong, but it seems like the new mayor of New York is what he wants to do is take the homeless off the street and put them in vacant hotels that are not, because of the COVID, that they don't have visitors. They want to put the homeless into the hotels that are not being rented out, the rooms that are not being rented out. I just think that's crazy.
I heard that one, I'm not sure who does this, who makes this happen, maybe the county or the state, but some body of government was going to take over an entire hotel near where I live and make it a homeless shelter base, a homeless housing place where they can, not shelter per se, but like a housing place for people that were previously homeless. They won't be homeless because they have a little apartment in this hotel. And I heard my neighbors are not very fond of that idea.
They've done it
Oh, I
here.
can't imagine why.
The county bought a hotel here to do that exact same thing, and are doing it now.
Do you guys have, in Nashville, we have a shelter downtown. They used to be the original Sears store. It's a big multi, like a 2-story, 3-story building and stuff there. And they do the homeless shelter, and they do where people can come in. They come in at night, they'll feed them and put them there, they'll shower stuff there, and then they're out the next morning on the streets again.
Well, what I don't understand is this, and why don't, you know, the federal government has so much land that they own. They're the largest landholder in the United States. Why can't they do something like that they did in the old days? Like, for example, when they wanted to settle Oklahoma, they just said, okay, anybody who can come here, you can, you could come here, and we're gonna, on this particular date, we're gonna let you run loose, and you're gonna be able to take over a piece of land that nobody else is on, and it'll be your land. And of course, that's how they became Sooners, because some people left before that they were supposed to. But wouldn't it be a great idea if the United States created, say, okay, let's a piece of land somewhere where the weather is not all that bad, it's not extreme, and just say, okay, you homeless people, we're going to make it easy for you to get to this location, and you could build your own city.
Well, okay, but except for one little detail here, which is kind of significant. A vast majority of the homeless are choosing to be that way. There is no desire in them at that point to better themselves. There's no desire to go to work or whatever. Their desires are either psychologically induced or drug induced.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons for a lot of things, but I think that if there was some sort of plan where they created it, they created a situation where there was a piece of land somewhere, create a city for all homeless people that would go there, and you would be able to be a landowner as well and build up.
Do you want the government to tell you where you can live?
No, I don't want it to tell me where to live.
It's called Salt Lake City. You go there and they give you something. Yeah. That was what.
I'm not saying that the government should tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the government should just say, okay, we're going to open a piece of land in this particular state. That if you come here, you will be able to own a piece of land, and you could build up a life. Just like in the old days, how we started. It's just an idea, because there's got to be something that could be done. As well.
There's got to be something, but I think that something starts with education and. What would you call it, Michael? Rehabilitation for these people that have psychological issues.
Well, yeah, they need to sit down with somebody, psychology folks, and, if they want to start working on those issues that are keeping them separated from society, because that's what they want right now. They want to be separated for whatever reason it is. They do not want to be part of society and have to interact with society unless it's to borrow money, get money from somebody, panhandling.
That's it. That's the thing. It's almost a disease. It's a state of mind, but it's almost acting like a disease on them. It's not letting them change from that state of mind. And I can't imagine the challenges that the leaders of our government have in trying to convince homeless people that they want to put them in some sort of dwelling. It's just, that's going to be very challenging. It's going to be only semi-successful at best, I bet.
In a lot of places, panhandling is a career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Time did a story on a guy in New York City who was making $1 million a year panhandling.
Then he was going to Atlantic City and gambling as a
incredible
roller.
Just incredible.
Oh, what was the comedian's name that did he's one of the older comedians, a New York guy. I want to say, it'll come to me. He did a funny bit about that. This was years and years ago, where people would be selling things on the street, and begging it for money.
Jackie
and it turns
Mason?
out no, it wasn't Jackie Mason. It was I could picture the guy's face and I could picture his name. I think his name was Robert something or other. But he did a bit where this guy was hitting him up for money, and then one day he sees him getting into a Cadillac, driving a Cadillac.
Right. Oh yeah, I've heard that bit. I've definitely heard that bit. Hey, Michael, where are you? Behind you looks rather picturesque.
I am at a Love's truck stop off of exit 95 on 45, right above Houston.
Is it like sunset or something? Looks really cool behind you.
Sunset would be the other way. Here we go.
Oh, look at that. Oh yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Very
Well,
cool.
you know what they say, Michael, when you're in love, the whole world is delicious. That's it. I love that expression. That was a
That's what
great
they
one.
say.
That
So
was
are
a great
you on
one.
your way to the race at Austin, the Formula One race at Austin this weekend?
Oh, I wish, bud. I would. Just, there's not telling much what I would give to go watch that, but no, sir. I'm heading down to work on a corporate client. They're doing a picnic, and I'm gotta run and coordinate the whole bloody thing. So,
Oh boy. Well, I know.
hey, you know what? It makes the money. That's all I care. It makes
No.
the money.
I talked to Jim Bramer last week, and he's down there doing the stage for the Billy Joel concert that's going to go on Saturday night over there.
Oh
And
man,
all this stuff going on.
yeah, for Formula One race and Billy Joel, how do you go wrong? How do you go wrong with that?
And Billy Joel's like the number one box office. I mean, he's really raking in the dough right now. Number one concert.
He ought to be. He
revenue.
took what, 12 years off?
Oh, he
had that. Wasn't he the guy I heard the story that he said, I'm retiring, guys, and he had a crew that had been with him for a long time, so he said, here's our severance package, and he gave him an actual severance package, $1 million or something, and he said, never gonna work. We're never gonna work again. And they all got, all the guys that had been with him for a long time got a decent amount of money. I'm probably, speaking way out of turn here, and the amounts are not so great. But the point is, they got a severance package that's kind of unheard of in this business. And then how many years later, he got back to work again, and they got back to work again. And he takes care of his people, I have a feeling.
Well, what's going on is he's been out for some years, been doing stuff, but basically he has Claire on retainer, like pays them a flat amount for the year, for the system, for the whole year, and the people and everything like that. All the people are on salary for yearly there. He plays it once, and every month he'll play New York City at Madison Square Garden whenever they have availability. It's concert is sold out. People go there. So he plays Madison Square Garden 12 to 15 times a year, and then other places around that. So it's whatever the system's done, whatever he does, arenas or stadiums or whatever, it's all set and done.
Now that's pretty much a great achievement to be able to say, well, I think, let's do a show. Let's do, let's just go to Madison Square Garden, and you can do it as much as you want and sell out all the time.
It's sold out immediately. It's crazy. And so let's see, Brian Ruggles is his front of house guy for a long, since day one, since back in the early days. And so my brother-in-law knows Brian really well. And then there's the drummer is Chuck Berge, who is a New Jersey guy who was in a couple of the bands that I worked with back in New Jersey. So I could say
Liberty's not with him anymore?
No, he hasn't been with them for a while. Didn't you hear about that?
No.
There was a big falling out. I think it has something to do with Liberty telling them the truth. I think it had to do with when they were on the road with Elton John and Billy Joel was around that time. And again, I'm probably spreading rumors, but the rumor I heard, or the story I heard, was that that Liberty tried to help him out, and he was being honest with him. He said, "Billy, you've got whatever it was, a drug or a drinking problem or something, some kind of addiction problem." And he didn't want to hear that, so he said, "You're out of here." And after all those years of being with them, he's not there anymore. And then they needed a new drummer, so it's like, well, where do you go? Well, there was I forget what the show was called, but Moving Out. The show was called Moving Out on Broadway. And so Chuck was playing Moving Out, so he knows all the songs, basically, from that show. And Chuck is a fantastic drummer, always has been. And so they said, why don't we try that drummer? They tried him, and he's been great ever since. He's the guy. But here's the funny thing about Billy Joel that you'll appreciate as a show person. So Billy Joel didn't want to go to sound checks anymore, and he heard that there was a guy doing Billy Joel tribute act, a Billy Joel cover band, sort of, right, in Long Island. So he went and saw the Billy Joel cover band, and the guy was really good. And he was like, "Wow, can I offer you a job? You could be my stand-in for sound check. You could be me during sound check, and then for the show, you just go over in the corner and play acoustic guitar or something." So he does that. this guy, I forget his name, but the guy that plays acoustic guitar also does the sound checks for Billy, and Billy doesn't ever have to go to sound check anymore. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, especially since we've got virtual sound check now. I mean, why do you need that? Oh well.
Yeah, but anyway, so he has a guy that stands in for him at sound check, and he doesn't ever have to go. And that guy was doing a Billy Joel cover band.
Is it true that he buys out the first 5 rows and then has his crew give those tickets to like the people that are true fans?
And from the back, I heard that on Facebook, so it must be true.
Well, that's why I'm asking you guys, because I heard it on Facebook, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I figured I'd ask the experts.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I could ask my brother-in-law to ask his friend Ruggles if that's
All
really
right, so
true.
there we
because
go. We've got an assignment for you, Ken.
Yeah.
Tune in
And then,
next week to hear this truth story.
But if you want to see something funny, look on YouTube for the video of Billy Joel. I think he's in Russia at the time, and he's playing, I think it was a CP70 piano, which was the piano that they provided for him. This is probably in the early 80s or late 70s sometime. Anyway, he's playing the CP70, and he doesn't like what the lighting guy is doing with the light. So he pitches a fit right during his show. He lifts up the whole piano and tips it over. I think it knocks it off the stage maybe or something like that. It's a very humorous video to watch. I'm sure it was very tense when it happened, but it's all about Billy Joel getting angry at the lighting guy for focusing on something that he didn't want them to focus on.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Hey, you're going to the Westgate right now, and I'm hearing that the Westgate and the MGM are requiring employees to get COVID vaccinations by October 15th. Have you heard anything about that? Have they fired anybody?
Well, I heard it on the news. So last week when I was in Vegas last week, it was the 15th, and they were announcing it on the news. All non-union employees of the Westgate are required to be vaccinated now. And so
now, why is it non-union and not union? What's the story on that? Was it already mandated that the unions?
I think they can't force the unions to do anything. I don't know. But I would be curious to know the answer to it.
I think the unions are already forcing their brothers to do so. I'm not sure.
No, not according to the Westgate, because Westgate, where we play, it's a union room. And when Manilow was getting ready to play again, getting ready to do performances again, Manilow management said, anybody that's going to work in the showroom has to be vaccinated. That's our first rule. Okay. Yep. So you have to be vaccinated. So there were, I think, 2 or 3 people on the local crew that just said, okay, I'm not coming back. I will not be working your show. So that tells me that there's no requirement. Well, yeah, I mean, that tells me that there's not a requirement to be vaccinated in order to get the union call, because those same people are getting union calls elsewhere, I would assume, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, 127 reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and asked me to do a call in Dallas. And the vaccination requirement was not there, where previous requests, the vaccination call had been there. So I think you're right. I think the union's not.
Some people are changing, like Coachella, Stagecoach Festival loosened the vaccination requirements to allow negative COVID tests. So those holding tickets for the Coachella Festival won't be required to prove that they've been vaccinated, but they have to prove that they test negative in order to go. So that's happening more and more.
I heard that's true for gatherings of over 10,000 people in LA County as well. Or is it all of California? I don't know. But anyway, and like, for example, I heard that they were going to have basically 3 categories to enter like Dodger Stadium for a baseball game. It would be you're either vaccinated, or you have proof of a test, or you want to get a test, because they were offering rapid tests there on site. And I was like, that is going to be chaos getting in that building, because if they're requiring proof of vaccination just to get in the building. That means that, whoever's taking their ticket has to now look at your vaccination record and has to be smart enough to say it's the same name. I don't know how they work that out, but anyway,
I think that Clear, the Clear that they're using at the airports and concerts, I think that's going to become really an integral part of concert systems, because I know Live Nation and AEG made some sort of deal with them. So it's possible you buy a ticket, you also have to you get a free Clear membership for a month or something. I don't know what they're going to do, but I did
a Clear, what do you call it? Proof of vaccination to enter some event. I forget what event it was, but yeah, Clear that didn't cost a thing, but it was just Clear was helping that process, making it more streamlined.
There is a fee for Clear. The issue that's going on right now is there's some tours and promoters that are requiring tests for everybody, and that's coming up. The problem is they're doing rapid tests at the venue coming in, and it's really dragging out getting loaded in the show, and people have problems getting in time to start the show.
Yeah, I would bet that would be a problem. Also the other thing is that, like guys like Eric Clapton right now, it seems like the Rolling Stones just like ripped him a new one. Rolling Stone, they're calling him a racist, and they went after him like huge, big time, that he's a conspiracy theorist, and he was paying people to do put in social media and various news magazines that were just total nonsense stuff that were anti-vaxxing.
Well, you know what happened to him, though, right?
No, tell us.
Well, okay, so Eric got vaccinated, and he had a very, very bad reaction to it, and that reaction happened to affect his ability to play guitar. So it really, really super freaked him out. Freaked him out. So he's like super anti-vaccine, which nobody
so
can
the
be
Rolling
more
Stones, the Rolling Stones reported on it, and that was it. And that is not according to the Rolling Stones, that was totally fabricated by Eric Clapton. He had some sort of other condition that had happened before that caused that, and then he blamed it on the vaccine, even though it was a pre-existing situation that he went into.
So are you saying Rolling Stone the magazine or Rolling Stone the band?
Rolling Stone the magazine.
Oh, I thought you meant the band. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're saying that was a fabricated story on his behalf.
Well, okay, so he did it. He put out a thing on YouTube saying that, yes, he had some pre-existing conditions of anxiety and some other stuff, but that the vaccination exacerbated the situation to a point where he almost couldn't play again at all.
Yeah, well, the Rolling Stone magazine is saying that's totally fabricated by him, totally fabricated, and that's why they came out with they're so anti-Eric Clapton right now, and they're going after him in many, many ways. But it's not as bad as Brazil right now, because Brazil, I don't know if you heard this, but the Brazilian congressional panel is recommending that the president of their country, Jair Bolsonaro, will be charged with crimes against humanity for asserting that he intentionally let the coronavirus rip through their country and kill hundreds of thousands. So this guy now is looking at, the president of Brazil is looking at crimes against humanity against him.
Well, now even better is in Florida. The story I heard was that in Florida, they are, somebody else better have this story better than me, but something about the school children. If you vaccinate your school child, is not allowed to attend school for like 6 months or something. I don't know what the story was, but it was something off the wall. If you vaccinate them, they are not allowed to go to school. That because vaccinating them is going to something bad. I was like, what? That's totally contrary to everything else. Anybody have the real story on that?
I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't heard it.
Yeah,
but
they
by
said
the way,
the Florida schools wants a 30-day quarantine for the kids who are vaccinated.
Is that crazy or what? That's totally crazy. But then again,
Well, they're
everything here
thinking
is
the
an opinion.
thinking on that is that you're giving a child a raw dose of the coronavirus.
Yeah, but they're
And
not. They're not though.
but that's
Yeah,
what the
it's,
thinking is. That's what the
yeah, it's
okay,
the
okay.
RMTP though. It's not. They're not giving. They're not giving them the. Nobody gets the raw virus
It's the
injected.
period,
into them.
it's a period of what they call shedding the virus thing into other people. And so it becomes a giving it to other people within their come in contact with due to shedding.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's happening up in Alaska. Alaska Airlines banned their state senator Laura Rybold, where she couldn't come fly on Alaska Airlines, and now she has come down with COVID. Because she refused to wear a mask on the plane. Now it turns out that she's got COVID as well, and so she's stuck in her own community right now, can't do anything. And on the other hand, now the U.S. is going to open up our tourism, and anybody can come in from anywhere in the world, I believe, based on the fact as long as they've had their 2 vaccinations, and they have to be, approved vaccinations. So also, I heard Wayne, and you could talk about this because you're in Australia, that Australia is finally opening up.
Yep, that's true. I think that Sydney's opened up, not completely, so they don't have the full lockdown, but they can go out maybe in a 200-kilometre radius from Sydney. Melbourne, I think, is not quite out of lockdown yet. Not sure about that one, but yeah, I think that we're very shortly about to unlock everywhere in the land of.
Well, these lockdowns you're mentioning, Wayne, when did they start? We're not talking about starting in March of 2020 lockdowns, are we?
I think Sydney, no, not that long. But I think Melbourne's been in and out of lockdown. But Melbourne's been in lockdown for a long time. I nearly think 3/4 of a year.
I thought it was 18 months, Wayne.
I think on and off it was. That's quite correct. But you probably, I think
because Lance Crevet lives in the Melbourne area, and he was on Scoville's Zoom meeting talking about doing shows again. This is a few months ago, and they got back to doing shows and stuff. But then I thought the lockdown was after that, whatever that was.
Oh no, Melbourne's been in and out a couple of times.
How about that?
Yeah, but and some shows have gone on, like I did, but then they went back into lockdown, and all the streets have been, like a lockdown. They're closed down. I think they're about to. I'm not sure if they're still open yet, but some shows did go on, and I think some shows went on in Sydney as well. And but I think Sydney's just about out of the full lockdown. But I didn't think many shows went on in that time. I thought Melbourne had been in lockdown for quite some time. It's only 500, it's only 300 miles from here, and but I thought it was still in lockdown, but just about to come out. Sydney's come out of the full lockdown. We still can't. In Wagga can't drive to Canberra, so I'll give you. You know where Canberra is in relation to Melbourne and.
Yeah.
Well, Canberra, it's sort of like it's closer to Sydney than it is to Melbourne, but halfway between, and Canberra's the capital. Well, we can't drive from here to Canberra and come back again without quarantine. I don't know about the full quarantine, but they're just about to change it. What's the date today? Oh, it should have just come out. I think it came out on the 17th of October. So
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, Ken, but I think that Melbourne's been in lockdown for a long time, but in and out of lockdown.
Yeah, I'm under the impression it's been 18 months. According to the article I read, I believe it's been 18 months. And so people are going crazy right now. They're getting married. They're doing all sorts of, imagine getting married. Unbelievable. Who would have thought?
They've certainly had a few, they've certainly had a few protests down there in the Melbourne land.
Oh, people have to be super frustrated, right?
Yeah. But there's some good things. I mean,
some of them. no
Yeah,
doubt.
I mean, good things are about to happen. I mean, Merck is about to introduce an antiviral COVID pill, and that's going to help out a great deal. You know, if all of a sudden people can take a pill rather than an injection, that's going to be much
Well,
much
you're
better.
talking about
And
you're talking about that Merck pill that's treatment once you get COVID, or to prevent you from getting COVID. I forget.
it's to prevent and treatment. It's not a magic potent, but it will definitely do both. It'll keep you from getting it, and if you get it, help you heal faster. Because basically, right now, people who are getting COVID, there are a lot of long-term effects that they're having, like they're fatigued, they've lost their smell, they've even had kidney complications. And according to the researchers at Penn State, more than half the people who were diagnosed with COVID are still experiencing symptoms after 6 months of being
Yeah,
over
they're
the
calling
COVID.
that long COVID, right?
Long haul. Yeah, they call it
Long
long
COVID,
haul.
long COVID.
And
Yeah,
there's, if you
so
want to read more about it, we put a link into, Tina will put a link in, you know. But on a good side, you know, a festival took place in Scotland, and they tested everybody before and after, and there was no additional COVID outbreaks, which is, you know, Polestar reported that, which is really good for our industry. Also, let's see, the U.S. government is going to start paying people for mental health situations here in the United States. So if you've had some mental problems from COVID, you might be eligible to get some government assistance here. And that would be really good, because, you know, this has been a pretty depressing time, you know, for a lot of people, you know. And by the way, we were talking about kids. And COVID, Pfizer submitted an emergency authorization to be able to vaccinate kids 5 years and older. So that's also on the home front. You know, so anyway, things are starting to pick up. Everything is looking good. I think everybody's working that can be working. You know, I think there's more and more jobs coming down the pipe. And I think, you know, everybody, I mean, look at all the attendance that we're having has dropped, which I'm happy for, in a manner of speaking.
I mean, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that people are back to work.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's, you
Speaking
know,
of back
and that's
to work,
a good thing.
I am at my destination, so I'm gonna have to sign off here, guys. But great talking to you. Always great
Good.
hearing what you have to say about stuff. And stay safe. All right.
Right,
Have a great week, Kenny.
And one last thing, Ken Porter, you might want to. I read an article that the coach industry right now is exploded back. That they're really, really busy now, and it's hard to find even a coach if you're getting ready to go on the road. Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, yeah. It's been shortage. One of my guys, the drummer from Ronnie Millsap, and they're doing a one-off down in Georgia, and they have to go to a day coach instead of a normal coach, because, you know, leaving early in the morning and stuff like that, because they can't get a regular coach. It's become hard. Trucking is just miserable to try and find people, whatever, on it. So yeah, it's come back pretty much. You still have hit and miss or holes that drop out, you know, here and there. Stuff, ticket sales, stuff like that.
Yeah, to quote John Fogerty, put me in coach. You know, that's it. Put me in coach. That's it.
Yeah, that first class is terrible to ride in, right?
Well, listen, I want to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to keep the conversation going. You're more than welcome to join us. If you just want a link, just DM me on any of the social media outlets or send us an email. You know how to reach me. I'm pretty easily reachable. Again, I want to thank everybody who participated on the panel. Remember, you can invite your friends. We're here again next Wednesday. This was our 74th meeting. Next week, of course, would make it our 75th meeting. Even though I'm not good with math, I just know that 74 plus 1 is 75. And that's next week at 4 o'clock Las Vegas time and 7 o'clock East Coast time. Here in Thailand at 6 in the morning. So thanks for coming. And with that, I'm going to stop the live stream to YouTube and Facebook. And just remember, everything you heard today was an opinion. But before I do go, is there anybody that has anything that they want to say to the world?
Let there be music.
Let there be music. Let there be light. All right. We'll see you all next week. And remember, we're going to stay in the room here and chit chat. So you're more than welcome to come join us. By the way, the room opens 15 minutes to 20 minutes earlier. So we're talking about things as well. So if you want to join the pre-conversation, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Remember, you make it happen. Have a great week. Stay safe and healthy.